The autumn wind whipped through Manhattan's concrete canyons as Ethan Lancaster stood at his corner office window, 40 stories above the city that had witnessed his rise to power. His reflection stared back at him from the polished glass. Perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit, carefully styled silver-streaked hair, the very picture of success. Yet something was missing, a void he couldn't quite name. His phone buzzed. Another message from Victoria, his current companion, demanding attention. He ignored it, his mind drifting to the corporate gala scheduled for that evening. The Lancaster Group's annual charity event was usually his moment of triumph, a celebration of wealth and influence. This year felt different. "Mr. Lancaster?" His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The guest list for tonight's gala just arrived. There's something you should see." Ethan pressed the button. "Send it through." The list appeared on his tablet, and as he scrolled, one name stopped him cold. Claire Miller, CEO, Phoenix Innovations. His fingers tightened around the device. Claire, his ex-wife. The woman he'd discarded 3 years ago for what he'd convinced himself was a strategic marriage to Victoria Reynolds, daughter of his biggest investor. "Sir?" His assistant's voice seemed distant. "Should I make any changes?" "No," he managed, his throat suddenly dry. "Leave it." The last time he'd seen Claire, she'd been different from the quiet, reserved woman he'd married. The divorce had awakened something in her, a fire, a determination he'd never witnessed during their marriage. He'd heard whispers of her success, but seeing her name with that title struck him like a physical blow. Memories flooded back. Their last conversation, her eyes filled not with tears but with a cold resolve that had unnerved him. "You'll regret this, Ethan," she'd said. "Not because you're leaving me, but because you're choosing power over love. One day you'll understand what that really costs." He'd laughed then, secure in his decision. Now 3 years later, her words haunted him with unsettling frequency. The day crawled by in a haze of meetings and phone calls, but his mind kept returning to Claire. He'd tried to keep tabs on her after the divorce, but she'd vanished from his social circles, rebuilding, her life away from his influence. The few times he'd attempted to reach out, his messages had gone unanswered. As his driver navigated through evening traffic toward the Plaza Hotel, Ethan adjusted his bow tie, a nervous habit he thought he'd outgrown. Victoria's text messages had grown increasingly insistent, but he'd maintained his silence. Tonight felt pivotal, though he couldn't explain why. The Plaza's ballroom sparkled with New York's elite. Ethan moved through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and making small talk. But his eyes scanned the room restlessly, searching. Then he saw her. Claire stood across the ballroom, engaged in conversation with a group of tech investors. She wore a midnight blue gown that seemed to catch every light in the room, her honey blonde hair swept up elegantly. But it was her presence that commanded attention, confident, poised, radiating the kind of power that couldn't be bought. As if sensing his gaze, she turned. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and Ethan felt the world tilt slightly on its axis. The slight lift of her eyebrow, the almost imperceptible tightening of her jaw. She'd known he would be here. He started toward her, drawn by an impulse he couldn't resist. The crowd seemed to part between them, creating a path he felt destined to walk. But before he could reach her, a small figure darted out from behind her dress, colliding with his legs. "Sorry," a child's voice piped up, and Ethan looked down into a pair of startlingly familiar eyes, his own eyes, set in a small face that made his heart stop. Claire moved with lightning speed, scooping the boy up into her arms. "Oliver," she said softly, but her eyes were locked on Ethan's face, watching the realization dawn. The room spun. The child, Oliver, couldn't be more than 3 years old. The timing, the resemblance. Ethan's mind raced, calculating dates, remembering their last months together. "Claire," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "What? Who?" "Mr. Lancaster." She cut him off, her voice perfectly controlled. "I believe your fiancé is looking for you." She nodded toward the entrance, where Victoria had just arrived in a flash of red silk and diamonds. But Ethan, barely registered Victoria's presence. He couldn't tear his gaze away from the child who now buried his face shyly in Claire's neck, one small hand clutching her necklace. His son. He had a son. "We need to talk," he said, fighting to keep his voice steady. Claire's smile was polite, but glacial. "Do we? I think we said everything we needed to 3 years ago." She turned to leave, but Ethan caught her arm gently. "Claire, please, you can't just—" She looked down at his hand until he released her, then met his gaze with steel in her eyes. "I can, and I have. You made your choice, Ethan. I made mine." She shifted Oliver in her arms, protective. "If you'll excuse me, it's past someone's bedtime." Ethan watched helplessly as she walked away, her head held high, their son, waving sleepily at the crowds over her shoulder. The weight of what he'd lost, what he'd thrown away, crashed over him like a tidal wave. Across the room, Victoria was making her way toward him, her face stormy. But Ethan couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Claire's words from 3 years ago echoed in his head. "One day you'll understand what that really costs." That day had arrived, and the price was beyond anything he could have imagined. In the aftermath of the revelation, the glittering ballroom felt like a stage set, all surface and no substance. The empire he'd built, the power he'd chosen, it all seemed hollow in the face of what he'd discovered. Somewhere out there, his son was being tucked into bed by the woman he'd wronged, and for the first time in his life, Ethan Lancaster had no idea what to do next. Victoria's sharp voice cut through Ethan's daze like a knife. "Who was that woman? And why did she have you looking like you'd seen a ghost?" The plaza's ballroom continued to buzz with activity around them, but Ethan barely registered the sounds. His mind replayed the moment on endless loop, those familiar eyes looking up at him, Claire's protective embrace, the devastating reality of what he'd missed. "Not here," he managed, steering Victoria toward a quiet alcove. His phone was all ready, in his hand, fingers flying across the screen as he typed Claire Miller Phoenix Innovations into the search bar. "Don't you dare ignore me, Ethan." Victoria's manicured nails dug into his arm. "I saw how you looked at her." The search results loaded. Headlines flashed before his eyes. Phoenix Innovations' meteoric rise under Claire Miller's leadership, tech's newest power player, Innovation of the Year award. Each article was accompanied by photos of Claire, confident, successful, transformed. Not a single mention of Oliver. "That was Claire," he said finally, his voice hollow. "My ex-wife." Victoria's grip tightened. "The nobody you were married to before me? That was her?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Well, she certainly moved up in the world. Should I be worried?" Ethan finally looked at her. Really, looked at her. The woman he'd chosen over Claire stood before him in designer clothes that cost more than most people's monthly salary, her face a mask of calculated concern. When had her beauty begun to seem so artificial? "She has my son," he said. Victoria's perfectly arranged features froze. "What?" "The boy with her. He's my son." The words felt strange on his tongue, momentous and terrifying. "He must have been born after I left." "That's impossible." Victoria's voice rose slightly, drawing curious glances from nearby guests. "She would have told you, she would have asked for money, that's what women like her do." "Women like her?" Ethan's tone sharpened. "Claire never needed my money. Even before—" He trailed off, remembering Claire's words during their divorce. She'd refused any settlement, stating she'd rather start from nothing than take a penny of his fortune. "You can't possibly believe this child is yours without proof," Victoria pressed. "It's probably just some ploy for attention. I mean, the timing is suspicious, isn't it? Right when we're about to announce our engagement." But Ethan wasn't listening. His mind had jumped to another memory, their last Christmas together. Claire had been different, radiant, secretive, always touching her stomach when she thought he wasn't looking. He'd been too busy with acquisitions to notice, too focused on the merger with Victoria's father's company. "I need to go," he said abruptly. "Go? The gala's barely started. Your speech—" "Cancel it." He was already moving toward the exit. pulling out his phone again. "Ethan," Victoria called after him, but he didn't turn back. In his car, he called the one person who might have answers. "Richard, I need everything you can find on Claire Miller and Phoenix Innovations. And," he paused, "I need you to look into birth records from 3 years ago. Search for the name Oliver." His lawyer's voice was cautious. "Ethan, if you're planning what I think you're planning, just do it, whatever it costs." The city lights blurred past his window as his driver navigated through Manhattan streets. Ethan's thoughts raced faster than the car could move. Every decision he'd made, every calculated step up the corporate ladder, seemed to mock him now. His phone buzzed. Victoria again. He silenced it, then pulled up Claire's corporate profile. The website showed her office location, a sleek building in downtown Manhattan. Phoenix Innovations occupied the top floors, its logo, a rising bird in flight, illuminated against the night sky. "Change of plans," he told his driver. "Take me downtown." The security guard at Phoenix Innovations barely glanced at his Lancaster Group ID before waving him through. The power of his name, usually a source of pride, now felt hollow. The elevator ride to the top floor gave him too much time to think. What right did he have to be here? What could he possibly say to justify his actions? The doors opened to a darkened office floor, empty except for a single light burning in a corner office. Claire sat at her desk, still in her gala dress, her face illuminated by her laptop's glow. She didn't look surprised to see him. "I wondered how long it would take you to show up," she said, closing her laptop. "Oliver's not here, he's home with his nanny." "Our son," Ethan corrected quietly. "No." Claire's voice was firm. "My son. You lost any right to claim him when you walked away." "I didn't know. Would it have made a difference?" She stood, her dress shimmering in the dim light. "If I had told you I was pregnant, would you have chosen differently? Would you have given up your precious merger, your perfect power couple fantasy with Victoria?" The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. "I deserved to know," he finally said. "Like I deserved a husband who chose me?" Claire's composure cracked slightly. "I found out I was pregnant the day after you left, the day after you told me our marriage was a youthful mistake you needed to correct for the sake of your career." Each word hit him like a physical blow. "Claire, don't." She held up a hand. "I rebuilt my life, Ethan. I took that broken woman you left behind and turned her into someone stronger. Oliver has never lacked for love or support or anything else. He doesn't need you coming in now to satisfy your guilty conscience." "He's my son," Ethan repeated, his voice breaking. "I have rights." "Rights?" Claire laughed, but there were tears in her eyes. "You want to talk about rights? Where were your parental rights when I was throwing up every morning for months? When I went through labor alone? When he had colic and wouldn't sleep for weeks?" She took a shaky breath. "You can't just walk in here and claim rights to a child you didn't even know existed until tonight." "Then why come to the gala?" Ethan challenged. "Why let me see him at all?" Claire's shoulders squared. "Because I'm not you, Ethan. I don't hide from difficult truths or manipulate situations for personal gain. Oliver deserves to know where he comes from, even if where he comes from is a man who values power over love." The words hung in the air between them, echoing her prophecy from 3 years ago. Ethan took a step forward, then stopped as Claire tensed. "I'll fight for him," he said quietly. "I'll do whatever it takes." "Of course you will." Claire's smile was sad. "That's what you do, isn't it? Take what you want, regardless of who gets hurt in the process." She picked up her purse, preparing to leave. "But let me be very clear. If you try to use Oliver as another acquisition, another power play, I will destroy everything you've built. That's not a threat. It's a promise from a mother protecting her child." She walked past him toward the elevator, pausing briefly at the door. "You wanted power, Ethan. You got it. But power doesn't love you back and it can't call you daddy. The elevator doors closed on her final words, leaving Ethan alone in the darkened office, surrounded by the empire Claire had built from the ashes of their marriage. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkled below, a testament to ambition and achievement. But for the first time in his life, Ethan Lancaster looked at all he'd gained and saw only what he'd lost. Claire's hands trembled as she unlocked the door to her Upper West Side brownstone. The babysitter, Rachel, looked up from her textbook as Claire entered. "He went down like an angel," Rachel whispered, gathering her things. "Though he did ask about the man from the party, the one with eyes like his." Claire's chest tightened. Of course Oliver would notice that. He noticed everything. "Thank you, Rachel. See you tomorrow." After the babysitter left, Claire climbed the stairs to Oliver's room. He slept peacefully, his dark hair tousled against the pillow, one arm wrapped around his favorite stuffed penguin. In sleep, the resemblance to Ethan was even more striking. "Mommy?" Oliver's eyes fluttered open. "You're still pretty." Claire smiled, sitting on the edge of his bed. "And you're supposed to be asleep, mister." Who was that man? The one who looked like me? The question she'd been dreading. Claire stroked his hair, buying time. "That's a complicated story, sweetheart. Is he why you're sad sometimes?" Her breath caught. She thought she'd hidden it better. "What makes you think I'm sad?" "You look at old pictures when you think I'm sleeping. And you touch your ring finger like something's missing. Out of the mouths of babes." Claire pulled Oliver into her lap, inhaling the sweet scent of his shampoo. "You're too clever for your own good, you know that? Grandma says I get that from you. That man," Claire began carefully, "is your father." Oliver was quiet for a moment, processing. "Like Jenny's daddy, the one who lives in Chicago?" "Something like that." Claire chose her words carefully. "He didn't know about you until tonight." "Why not?" Such a simple question with such a complicated answer. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, big ones." She hugged him closer. "But none of that is your fault. And you are the best thing that ever happened to me." Across town, Ethan sat in his home office staring at his computer screen. Richard's preliminary report filled the display. Oliver James Miller, born March 15, 2022. Mother, Claire Elizabeth Miller. Father, listed as undisclosed. There were medical records, school registration for an exclusive preschool, even a trust fund Claire had set up in Oliver's name. She'd thought of everything, provided everything, without him. His phone buzzed again, Victoria's 20th call of the night. Instead of answering, he opened his photo gallery, scrolling back 3 years. There they were, his last photos with Claire. Holiday parties, charity events, quiet moments at home. He'd been blind not to see it then. The subtle changes in her figure, the glow in her cheeks. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Victoria stood in the doorway, still in her gala dress, fury radiating from every perfectly styled inch of her. 3 hours, she said. You left me standing there for 3 hours. Not now, Victoria. Yes, now. She stalked into the room. You humiliated me in front of everyone who matters in this city. And for what? Some sob story about a secret child? Ethan closed his laptop with deliberate calm. It's not a sob story. Oliver is my son. Prove it. Victoria's voice turned calculating. Demand a paternity test. Better yet, let me call my PR team. We can spin this. Make her look like an opportunist trying to capitalize on your success. The suggestion turned his stomach. You don't get it, do you? I saw him, Victoria. He has my eyes, my mother's nose. Oh, please. She laughed harshly. Don't tell me the great Ethan Lancaster is going soft. This woman walks in with some kid and suddenly you're ready to throw away everything we've built? Everything we've built? Ethan stood slowly. What exactly have we built, Victoria? A relationship based on mutual advantage? A merger masquerading as a marriage? Don't act high and mighty with me. Victoria's eyes narrowed. You chose this. You chose me. Remember why? Claire's too soft, too ordinary. She doesn't understand what it takes to succeed in this world. She mimicked his words from 3 years ago. Well, guess what? Your ordinary ex-wife outmaneuvered you. She kept your son secret while building her own empire. Not so soft after all, was she? The truth in Victoria's words stung worse than any insult. Get out. Excuse me? Get out of my house, we're done. Victoria's composure cracked. You can't be serious. The merger is off. I'll deal with the fallout. My father will destroy you. Maybe I deserve to be destroyed. Ethan turned to the window, dismissing her. After a moment, he heard her heels clicking across the floor, followed by the slam of his front door. Alone again, Ethan pulled up Phoenix Innovations' website. Claire's company had revolutionized sustainable energy storage, solving problems he'd dismissed as too idealistic when she'd first mentioned them years ago. While he'd been acquiring companies and crushing competitors, she'd been actually changing the world. His phone lit up with a text from Richard. Court opens at 9 a.m. Want me to file for a paternity test and custody hearing? Ethan's finger hovered over the reply button. It would be easy to fall back on old habits, to use his money and power to force the issue. But Claire's words echoed in his head. If you try to use Oliver as another acquisition. Instead of replying, he opened a new tab and began researching child development for 3-year-olds. What they ate, how they slept, their favorite games. Hours passed as he read article after article trying to understand the life stage he'd missed. Dawn was breaking when his house phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Lancaster? A woman's voice, professional but warm. This is Dr. Andrea Chen. I'm Oliver's pediatrician. Claire asked me to call you. Ethan sat up straighter. Is something wrong? No, Oliver's perfectly healthy. Claire, she thought you might have questions about his development, his medical history. She said you'd probably be researching all night instead of sleeping. The gesture, Claire knowing exactly what he'd do, making sure he had access to accurate information about their son, broke something open in his chest. Dr. Chen, I've missed everything. Not everything, Mr. Lancaster. Oliver's only 3. There's still time if you're willing to put in the work. Real work, not just throwing money at the situation. What do you mean? Children need consistency, Mr. Lancaster. They need parents who show up, who put their needs first. Are you ready to be that kind of father? The question hung in the air as the sun rose over Manhattan, painting the sky in shades of possibility and regret. I want to be, he said finally. I just don't know how. That's the most honest answer you could give. Dr. Chen's voice softened. Start there. Start with honesty. The rest, well, that's what parenting is all about. Learning as you go. After hanging up, Ethan watched the city wake up, thinking about second chances and what they cost. He pulled up his email and began to write. Dear Claire, thank you for having Dr. Chen call. You're right. I was researching all night. There's so much I don't know, so much I need to learn. I won't fight you in court. Oliver deserves better than to be caught in a legal battle. But please, give me a chance to learn how to be his father, not for my sake, but for his. Ethan. His finger hovered over the send button. 3 years ago, he'd chosen power over love. Now faced with the consequence of that choice, he had to decide. Was he truly ready to choose differently? He pressed send. Claire stared at Ethan's email on her phone screen, her coffee growing cold beside her laptop. The morning sun streamed through the windows of her home office where she'd been trying, and failing, to focus on work for the past hour. Mommy? Oliver's voice carried from the doorway. Can we have pancakes? She set her phone down, grateful for the interruption. Pancakes on a Tuesday? That's breaking the rules, mister. Please? He bounced on his toes, still in his dinosaur pajamas. With blueberries? The sight of his hopeful face, so much like his father's when he really wanted something, made her heart twist. Okay, But first you have to get dressed for school." As Oliver scampered off, Claire's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Saw the society pages. You okay?" The New York elite's gossip machine was already churning. Headlines flashed across her tablet. Lancaster Reynolds' engagement on rocks? Tech CEO's secret child with business tycoon? Power couple split over love child drama? Oliver's voice drifted down the hallway as he sang to himself, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. Claire closed the news tabs and opened Ethan's email again. His words seemed genuine, but she'd thought that about his love once, too. The doorbell rang just as she was flipping the last pancake. Through the security camera, she saw Ethan on her doorstep, looking decidedly un-tycoon-like in casual clothes, holding what appeared to be a gift bag. "Who is it?" Oliver asked, syrup dripping down his chin. Claire dabbed his face with a napkin, buying time. "It's your father. Would you like to meet him? Really meet him this time?" Oliver's eyes widened. "Can I show him my dinosaurs? Let's start with pancakes, okay?" She pressed the intercom. "Come up, Ethan." He entered cautiously, as if stepping into a minefield. Gone was the perfectly polished businessman from the gala. This Ethan wore jeans and a simple sweater, his hair slightly disheveled, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he hadn't slept. "I brought something," he said softly, holding out the bag. "If that's okay?" Claire nodded and Oliver peered around her legs at the stranger who shared his eyes. "Hi, Oliver." Ethan knelt down to the boy's level. "I heard you like dinosaurs?" Oliver nodded solemnly. "Do you know about the Therizinosaurus? It had the longest claws ever." "I don't know that one," Ethan admitted. "Could you teach me?" From the bag, he pulled out a plush dinosaur. Not a typical toy store variety, but a scientifically accurate model. Oliver's eyes lit up. "That's a Parasaurolophus. They made music with their crests." He reached for the toy, then stopped, looking up at Claire for permission. "It's okay," she said, watching Ethan's face as their son hugged the dinosaur. The raw emotion in his expression made her turn away. "Would you like some pancakes?" she offered, surprising herself. "There's extra." They settled into an awkward breakfast, Oliver chattering about his favorite prehistoric creatures, while Ethan hung on every word. Claire noticed how carefully he listened, how he asked questions that showed genuine interest rather than merely humoring a child. "And Ms. Rodriguez says we're going to hatch chickens in class," Oliver announced, bouncing in his seat. "They're like tiny dinosaurs because birds evolved from theropod dinosaurs." "That's fascinating," Ethan said, shooting a questioning look at Claire. "His preschool has a science focus," she explained. "He's always been curious about how things work." "Like you," Ethan said quietly. The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken memories. Oliver, oblivious to the tension, continued his lecture on evolutionary biology as interpreted by a 3-year-old. "Sweetheart," Claire interrupted gently, "it's almost time for school. Go brush your teeth, okay?" Once Oliver was out of earshot, Ethan spoke. "Claire, don't." She began clearing the dishes. "This morning was for Oliver, not us. I ended things with Victoria." The plate in Claire's hands clattered against the sink. "That's not my concern." "I know." Ethan stood, maintaining his distance. "I just wanted you to know I meant what I said in the email. No courts, no power plays. I want to do this right. And what's right in your mind? Whatever you and Oliver are comfortable with. Maybe I could take him to the Natural History Museum sometime. With you there, of course." Claire turned to study him. The mighty Ethan Lancaster, asking permission instead of taking what he wanted. It felt like an alternate reality. "The museum's doing a special dinosaur exhibition next weekend," she said finally. "Oliver's been begging to go." "Saturday?" "Sunday afternoon. He has soccer on Saturdays." Ethan's face lit up at this new piece of information about his son. "Soccer? He's just learning. It's mostly kids running in random directions and occasionally making contact with the ball." A genuine smile crossed Ethan's face, not his practiced business smile, but the real one she remembered from their early days. Thank you, Claire. Oliver thundered back down the stairs, backpack bouncing. Mommy, can I take Rex to school? He clutched the new dinosaur. Special toys stay home, remember? We don't want Rex to get lost. Oliver's face fell but then brightened. Can he be here when I get back? Rex will be here, Claire assured him. But Mr. Lancaster needs to go to work now. Will you come back? Oliver asked Ethan directly. Something flickered across Ethan's face. Pain, hope, determination. If your mom says it's okay, I'd like to. Maybe this weekend we could all go see the dinosaurs at the museum. Oliver looked to Claire, who nodded. Yes. He jumped with excitement, then suddenly grew serious. Do you know about the extinction event? The what? Ethan asked. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. I can tell you all about it at the museum. It was huge and made tsunamis and… Oliver, Claire interrupted. Rachel's waiting to walk you to school. After a flurry of goodbyes, Oliver departed with his babysitter, leaving his parents in charged silence. He's incredible, Ethan said finally. You've done an amazing job with him. He makes it easy. He's naturally gentle, naturally kind. Unlike his father, the unspoken words hung between them. I deserved that. This isn't about what you deserve. Claire met his gaze steadily. It's about what Oliver deserves. He's not a business deal you can close, Ethan. He's a little boy who's going to ask questions about where you've been, why you left, why you came back. Are you ready for those conversations? No, Ethan admitted, but I want to be. I want to learn, not just about dinosaurs and soccer, but about him, about how to be the father he deserves. Claire gathered her laptop and keys, preparing to leave for work. Sunday at 2, don't be late. I won't. He moved toward the door, then paused. Claire, thank you. For this morning. For letting me see him. For… He gestured at the breakfast dishes, the toy dinosaur propped on the counter, the small glimpse into their life she'd allowed him. Don't make me regret it. After he left, Claire picked up Rex the Parasaurolophus, running her fingers over its scientifically accurate details. Ethan had done his research, chosen something educational rather than flashy. It was a small thing, but perhaps a significant one. Her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend. News about Lancaster is everywhere. You okay? Need me to destroy him? Claire looked at the dinosaur in her hands, thought of Oliver's excitement, of Ethan's careful attention to their son's words. Not yet, she typed back. Let's see how this plays out. She placed Rex on Oliver's bed, positioned so it would be the first thing he saw when he got home. Sometimes the biggest journeys began with the smallest steps, like pancakes on a Tuesday, and a father learning the names of dinosaurs. Sunday arrived with an unseasonably warm October sun and a knot in Claire's stomach. She watched Oliver bounce around their brownstone in his favorite dinosaur t-shirt, his excitement palpable. When is he coming? Is it time yet? Can we go now? Claire checked her phone. 3 missed calls from her PR team and a message from her board of directors requesting an emergency meeting. The news of Oliver's existence had sent ripples through both their companies' stock prices. Phoenix Innovations was being painted as a success story, but Lancaster Group was facing scrutiny over Ethan's character and judgment. 15 more minutes, sweetheart, she answered, silencing another incoming call. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. There's press outside the museum. My security team can handle it, but I wanted you to know. Of course there was press. Their story was too perfect for the media to resist. The scorned wife turned successful CEO, the powerful ex-husband discovering his secret child, the abandoned merger with the Reynolds family. It was like a ready-made soap opera. The doorbell rang precisely at 1:45. Oliver raced to answer it, but Claire caught him. What's our rule about doors? Wait for grown-ups, he recited, then called out, Is that you, Mr. Lancaster? It is, Ethan's voice carried through the door. And I brought something for our museum trip. Claire opened the door to find Ethan holding 3 baseball caps and a small backpack. Gone again was the power suit, replaced by casual clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, but at least showed an effort to blend in. Disguises, he explained, handing them each a cap. And snacks, water, and a first aid kit in the bag. The museum's website said no outside food, but I thought better safe than sorry. The uncertainty in his voice, the over-preparation, it was so unlike the Ethan she'd known, that Ethan would have sent an assistant to handle everything. Thoughtful, she said. Oliver, hat on. We're going on a special mission. Like spies? Oliver's eyes widened as he put on his cap. Exactly like spies, Ethan jumped in. Very quiet, very sneaky spies who know all about dinosaurs. They took Ethan's private car, with its tinted windows and discreet security detail. Oliver spent the ride telling Ethan about his school's chicken hatching project, while Claire watched their interaction carefully. The eggs have to stay at exactly the right temperature, Oliver explained seriously, like dinosaur eggs probably did. That's fascinating, Ethan replied, and Claire could tell he meant it. How do they control the temperature? With an incubator, Oliver sounded out the word carefully. Ms. Rodriguez lets us check the thermometer 3 times a day. They pulled up to the museum's side entrance where Ethan's security team had cleared a path. Still, camera flashes went off as they hurried inside. Oliver gripped Claire's hand tighter. It's okay, she soothed. Just excited people taking pictures of the museum. Inside, the vast halls of the Natural History Museum stretched before them. Oliver's fear vanished at the sight of the massive dinosaur skeleton in the main hall. That's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, he announced. It was one of the last dinosaurs before the extinction event. Did you know their teeth were as big as bananas? I didn't know that, Ethan said, crouching down to Oliver's level. What else can you tell me about it? For the next hour, Oliver led them through the dinosaur exhibits like a miniature tour guide. Claire hung back slightly, watching as Ethan asked questions and listened intently to their son's enthusiastic, if not always accurate, answers. And this one, Oliver pointed to a large marine reptile skeleton, is a mosasaurus. It wasn't actually a dinosaur because real dinosaurs lived on land, but it was really big and ate sharks. That's incredible, Ethan said, then glanced at Claire. He knows more than most college graduates about this stuff. He's passionate about what interests him, Claire replied, like someone else I used to know, before spreadsheets replaced dreams. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Ethan's face fell slightly, but before he could respond, Oliver tugged on his sleeve. Can we see the new exhibit? The one about the asteroid? The special exhibition was crowded, but Ethan's presence seemed to create a bubble of space around them. People whispered and pointed. Phones appeared to take discreet photos, but no one approached. Oliver was transfixed by the interactive display showing the impact that ended the Cretaceous period. See, the asteroid hit here. He pointed to the Yucatan Peninsula on the glowing globe. And it made huge waves and fires and darkness everywhere. It must have been scary for the dinosaurs, Ethan said. Very scary, Oliver agreed solemnly. But some of them survived and evolved into birds. That's why we still have chickens. A familiar voice cut through the crowd. Well, isn't this a touching family scene? Victoria stood there, immaculate in designer casual wear, her smile sharp as a knife. Several heads turned their way, phones raising to record whatever drama might unfold. Victoria, Ethan's voice was low, warning. This isn't the place. The place for what? I'm just enjoying the museum. She turned her gaze to Oliver, who had shrunk behind Claire's legs. So this is the famous heir? Hello, little one, I'm Victoria. I was going to be your stepmother. Was is the operative word, Claire cut in, her voice ice. Oliver, sweetheart, why don't we go look at the gems and minerals? I hear they have a new diamond exhibition. Actually, Victoria's smile widened. I'd love to talk to you, Claire, woman to woman, about old times, new beginnings, hostile takeovers. Is that a threat? Ethan stepped forward. Daddy's mad, Oliver whispered. and Claire felt him trembling against her leg. The word, Daddy, hung in the air between them all. It was the first time Oliver had used it, born of fear rather than love, and it hit them all like a physical blow. Victoria recovered first. Mad? No, sweetie. Your daddy doesn't get mad. He gets even. Isn't that right, Ethan? Isn't that what you did to Claire when she wasn't ambitious enough for you? That's enough. Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. You're upset, I understand that. But if you ever come near my son again, you'll what? Destroy me, like you destroy everyone who gets in your way, like you destroyed your first marriage? Victoria laughed. Oh, wait. Looks like that particular destruction backfired, didn't it? Claire felt Oliver's tears soaking through her pants leg. Around them, phones recorded everything, and she could already imagine the headlines. Lancaster family drama erupts at museum. Oliver, she said clearly, cover your ears and hum your favorite song, okay? Like we practice when things get too loud. He did, starting to hum the theme from his favorite dinosaur documentary. Claire turned to Victoria. You want to talk hostile takeovers? Fine. Check your phone. While you've been creating a scene, my board has been meeting with your father's board. It seems the Reynolds Group is looking for new leadership, someone more stable, someone who understands sustainable growth rather than quick profits, someone like Phoenix Innovations. Victoria's face went pale. She pulled out her phone, fingers shaking as she scrolled through messages. You can't. I can, and I did. Claire's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Now get out of here before security arrives, and remember, I learned about power plays from the best. The difference is, I learned how to do them better. Victoria fled, leaving a wake of whispers and recording phones behind her. Ethan stared at Claire with something like awe. Oliver, Claire said softly, you can uncover your ears now. How about we get some ice cream? Can we eat it in the planetary exhibit? Oliver asked, his voice small, where it's dark and quiet. Of course, buddy, Ethan said, then looked at Claire. If that's okay? She nodded, and they made their way to the dimly lit space under the planets. Oliver's ice cream dripped onto his shirt as he told them about the dwarf planet Pluto, his earlier fear gradually fading in the peaceful atmosphere. I'm sorry, Ethan said quietly while Oliver was distracted by a Mars display. About Victoria. About all of it. I meant what I said about the Reynolds Group, Claire replied. I protect what's mine. I know. He watched Oliver pointing out constellations on the ceiling. I'm starting to understand what that really means. They left through a different exit, away from the remaining press. As they waited for the car, Oliver tugged on Ethan's sleeve. Mr. Lancaster? If the dinosaurs could survive and turn into birds, does that mean bad things can turn into good things? Ethan met Claire's eyes over their son's head. Yes, he said softly. I believe they can, if they try hard enough and if they're given the chance. The Manhattan sunset painted the museum's facade in shades of amber and gold, a reminder that even after the darkest extinction events, life found a way to begin again. The video had gone viral by Monday morning. Tech CEO destroys rival in Museum Showdown topped every business news site, while social media dissected every word, every gesture, every subtle power play of the confrontation. Ethan watched the clips play on mute in his office, remembering Oliver's trembling form behind Claire's legs. His phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. Board members, investors, reporters. The Reynolds Group's stock had plummeted with news of the potential Phoenix Innovations takeover, and Victoria's public meltdown had only accelerated the decline. Your 9 a.m. is here, his assistant announced through the intercom. Richard Chen, his lawyer, entered with an armful of folders and a grim expression. It's worse than we thought. Victoria's father is threatening to sue for breach of contract over the merger cancellation. Let him. Ethan turned away from the windows. What else? Your board is calling for an emergency meeting. They're concerned about stability, about the company's image. Richard hesitated. Some are suggesting you take a temporary leave of absence. And Victoria's going to the press. She's scheduled an exclusive interview, positioning herself as the wronged fiancé, claiming you've had a secret family all along. Ethan's laugh was hollow, the irony being that I didn't know about my own son. Speaking of Oliver, Richard pulled out another folder. I've drawn up custody papers just in case, if Claire tries to use this situation to... No. Ethan's voice was firm. I told you, no custody battles. Ethan, be reasonable. Your position is precarious right now. Having clear legal rights to your son could what? Turn him into another asset to fight over? Another headline? Ethan stood, pacing the office. Do you know what Oliver did at the museum yesterday? He covered his ears and hummed when things got ugly. Claire taught him that. Taught him how to protect himself from adult chaos. I won't add to that chaos. The board won't like it. They want clarity, stability. The board doesn't get a vote in my relationship with my son. A knock interrupted them. Ethan's assistant stood in the doorway looking nervous. Sir, Ms. Miller is here. Claire entered before Ethan could respond, looking every inch the rival CEO in a perfectly tailored suit. We need to talk. Richard gathered his papers. I'll give you two a moment. Once they were alone, Claire spoke. Oliver's school called. Someone's been trying to take pictures of him at recess. The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. I'll handle it. How? The same way you handled Victoria yesterday? Claire's composure cracked slightly. He had nightmares last night, Ethan, about the angry lady and extinction events. Ethan sank into his chair, the weight of consequences pressing down on him. I'm sorry. I never thought she'd... That's the problem, isn't it? You never think about the collateral damage. Claire's voice softened. But this time, the collateral damage is our son. What do you need me to do? I've enrolled him in a different preschool, more secure, better screening of visitors. She met his eyes. It's closer to your office than his current school. The implication hung in the air between them. You're not keeping me away? Oliver asked about you this morning. He wanted to know if you'd come read him dinosaur stories like you did at the museum. Claire's expression was unreadable. Despite everything that happened, you made him feel safe when it mattered. You got down to his level literally and figuratively. The Ethan I knew 3 years ago wouldn't have done that. I'm trying to be better. I know. She placed a folder on his desk. That's why I brought this. Inside was a calendar, Oliver's weekly schedule, soccer practice, swimming lessons, play dates, all carefully noted. I'm not saying you can attend everything, Claire continued. But if you're serious about being in his life, really being there, you should know his routine. Know that he hates carrots but loves broccoli. That he sleeps with 2 nightlights because one might burn out. That he covers his ears and hums when things get scary. Ethan finished softly. Yes. Claire's professional mask slipped, showing the mother beneath. He's sensitive, Ethan. Like I was before I had to become hard to survive in this world. I don't want that for him. Ethan studied the calendar, noting the careful color coding, the small annotations about Oliver's preferences and needs. Thank you for this. For giving me a chance to know him. Don't make me regret it. She turned to leave, then paused. The Reynolds Group situation. I'll handle Victoria and her father. You focus on Oliver. Actually, Claire's lips curved slightly. I was going to suggest a collaboration. Phoenix Innovations' clean energy technology paired with Lancaster Group's distribution network. It would make the Reynolds merger obsolete and give both our stocks a boost. Ethan stared at her. You want to work together? Professionally, for both our company's sake. And, she hesitated, maybe it would be good for Oliver to see his parents can be on the same side. After she left, Ethan sat looking at the calendar for a long time. Soccer practice tomorrow afternoon. 3 years ago, he would have sent an assistant to observe and report back. Now the thought of sitting on uncomfortable bleachers watching his son chase a ball around with other preschoolers filled him with an unfamiliar warmth. His phone buzzed. Another message from the board about the emergency meeting. Instead of responding, he opened his browser and searched for best dinosaur books for 3-year-olds. Across town, Claire sat in her own office, watching Oliver through the glass wall of the company's daycare center. He was showing his new friends the dinosaur Ethan had given him, his face animated as he explained about the Parasaurolophus's musical crest. Her assistant appeared with afternoon messages. The Reynolds Group's board wants to schedule a merger. Hux. And Mr. Lancaster's office sent over some documents about a potential collaboration. Schedule the merger talks for next week. Claire smiled slightly. And send the collaboration documents to legal. Carefully. Of course. The assistant paused. The press is still requesting statements about the museum incident. People are calling it the dinosaur showdown. Claire watched Oliver demonstrating how the dinosaur would have walked and trumpeted. No comment. Some stories aren't for public consumption. Her phone lit up with a text from Ethan. Is it okay if I bring some books to soccer practice tomorrow? Found a good one about prehistoric marine life. She thought about Oliver's face when he talked about the Mosasaurus, about Ethan's genuine interest in their son's passion. Practice starts at 3:30, she typed back. Don't be late. The late afternoon sun painted her office in amber hues, reminiscent of the museum's sunset. Outside her window, New York's corporate warriors fought their daily battles, but in here, watching her son play, Claire felt the first delicate tendril of hope take root. Sometimes extinction events didn't end in destruction. Sometimes they cleared the way for something new to evolve. Victoria Reynolds sat in her media coach's office, practicing her camera angles. He betrayed not just me, but the trust of 2 companies, she rehearsed, dabbing at perfectly dry eyes. I thought I knew him. Good, the coach nodded. But maybe touch the necklace when you say knew him. It's the engagement pendant, right? Viewers eat up those details. Outside the Manhattan media studio, autumn winds whipped newspapers through the streets, their headlines screaming about corporate warfare and family drama. But across town, on a small soccer field in Central Park, a different story was unfolding. Ethan arrived at 3:15, clutching both the marine dinosaur book and a coffee carrier with 3 cups, regular coffee for him, Claire's preferred oat milk latte, and hot chocolate for Oliver. He'd remembered their orders from the museum. Claire was already there, sitting on the metal bleachers while Oliver practiced with his team. She raised an eyebrow at the drinks but accepted the latte without comment. Hot chocolate is for after practice, she said as Ethan settled beside her. Sugar before exercise makes him too jittery. Noted. He pulled out a small notebook and wrote it down, adding to his growing list of Oliver-related knowledge. How's he doing? See for yourself. On the field, Oliver was more interested in examining a beetle near the goalpost than the ball being kicked around by his teammates. His coach, a patient woman in her 20s, gently redirected his attention. Come on, Oliver. Remember what we talked about. Eyes on the ball. Oliver looked up, noticed the ball rolling his way, and gave it an enthusiastic if somewhat uncoordinated kick. It didn't go far, but his teammates cheered anyway. He's not exactly competitive, Claire said softly. That's okay. Ethan surprised himself with how much he meant it. 3 years ago, he would have been mortified by a less than athletic son. Now, watching Oliver's fascination with the beetle, he felt only warmth. He's curious. That's better than competitive. Claire gave him a considering look. The board meeting this morning, how did it go? They're not happy. Ethan sipped his coffee. But I made my position clear. Oliver comes first. And Victoria's interview? Scheduled for tomorrow morning. My PR team is preparing a statement, but... He shrugged. Let her talk. I'm done. Playing those games. A commotion on the field drew their attention. Oliver had discovered an interesting rock and was showing it to his teammates, who had abandoned the soccer ball to listen to his impromptu geology lesson. Oliver, the coach, called, trying not to laugh. Rocks are for after practice, remember? But Coach Christina, it might be a fossil. Several parents chuckled. Ethan found himself smiling, even as he noted another item in his notebook. Prefers rocks to soccer balls. The collaboration proposal, Claire said, keeping her eyes on the field. My team reviewed it. And it's solid. Combining our technologies could revolutionize energy distribution, but there are trust issues to consider, not just between us, but our boards, our investors. On the field, Oliver finally engaged with the ball, making a surprisingly good pass to a teammate. Both his parents cheered, momentarily distracted from business talk. Good job, buddy, Ethan called. Oliver beamed at them, then immediately went back to examining the ground for more interesting rocks. Trust, Ethan said quietly, has to start somewhere. Speaking of trust, Claire shifted slightly. Oliver asked if you could come to dinner tonight, to see his rock collection. Ethan's heart jumped. Really? Don't read too much into it. He shows his rock collection to everyone, the mailman, his teachers, random people at the park. Still, I'd love to. A sleek black car pulled up to the park's edge, and Claire tensed. A man with a camera emerged, trying to be discreet, and failing. Ethan was already on his phone. Jerry, we've got another one at the soccer field. Yeah, same drill as yesterday. Thanks. He turned to Claire. My security team will handle it. They watched as two suited men approached the photographer, had a quiet conversation, and escorted him away. That's the third one this week, Claire said. I know, I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Well, not entirely. She managed a small smile. The collaboration announcement might help, give them a different story to focus on. Practice was winding down. Oliver's uniform was somehow both dusty and grass-stained, and he clutched something in his small fist as he ran toward them. Mommy, Daddy, look what I found. The word, Daddy, came naturally this time, not born of fear like at the museum. Ethan felt it like a physical impact. What is it, bud? He knelt down to Oliver's level, accepting both the dirty rock and the new title with equal reverence. It's got lines in it, see? Oliver pointed to some striations in the stone. It might be from the Jurassic period. Probably not, Claire said gently, but it's still a very interesting rock. Why don't you show it to your collection when we get home? Mr. Lancaster is coming to dinner. Really? Oliver bounced on his toes. Can we have dinosaur chicken nuggets? If that's okay with your mom, Ethan said carefully. Claire nodded. Go get your bag, sweetheart, and don't forget to thank Coach Christina. As Oliver ran off, Ethan's phone buzzed. A news alert. Victoria Reynolds' exclusive interview. The real story behind the Lancaster family drama. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. You should prepare a response, Claire said, reading over his shoulder. No. Ethan put the phone away. I have dinner plans with my son. Victoria can wait. Across the city, in the pristine media studio, Victoria practiced her tears and touched her necklace, but her carefully crafted narrative was already losing its power. The real story was happening on a small soccer field, where a father learned to value curiosity over competition, and in a child's rock collection, where trust was being rebuilt one mineral at a time. Oliver returned with his bag and a fistful of dandelions. These are for both of you, he announced, presenting the slightly wilted flowers with ceremony. Because Coach Christina says we should be nice to everybody, even when they're being silly, like Victoria was. Claire and Ethan exchanged glances over their son's head. Out of the mouths of babes came wisdom that all their corporate strategizing couldn't touch. Thank you, sweetheart, Claire said, accepting her dandelions. Now, who's ready to go home and look at rocks? And read about marine dinosaurs? Oliver looked hopefully at Ethan. Definitely. Ethan tucked the book under one arm and took his dandelions with his free hand. I want to learn everything about them. As they walked to their cars, another photographer tried to approach. But this time, Oliver didn't need to cover his ears and hum. He was too busy telling his father about the difference between metamorphic and igneous rocks, his small hand trustingly held in Ethan's larger one. The late afternoon sun turned the dandelions to gold, nature's reminder that sometimes the simplest things, a child's trust, a shared moment, a humble flower, were worth more than all the corporate empires in Manhattan. Victoria's interview would air tomorrow, but tonight belonged to dinosaur chicken nuggets and rock collections. The business world could wait. Some mergers, after all, were more important than others. He knew about the child all along. Victoria's voice trembled perfectly on the morning news. The affair with his ex-wife, the secret family. It was all happening while we were planning our future together. Ethan muted the TV in his office, but he couldn't look away from Victoria's performance. Every gesture was calculated, from the modest navy dress that screamed wronged woman to the way she clutched the tissue she never actually used. His phone lit up with Richard's call. "It's bad, Ethan. The Reynolds Group is backing her story. Their board is claiming you deliberately sabotaged the merger to protect your secret family." "It's nonsense. There are dated documents, records. They're saying the documents are part of the cover-up, that you and Claire planned this all along." Richard paused. "The Lancaster Group stock is down 12%. A text from Claire flashed across his screen. "Turn on Channel 4. Now." He switched channels to find Claire being ambushed outside. Phoenix Innovations by a mob of reporters. "Ms. Miller? Did you deliberately hide your son to manipulate the market? Was this a planned corporate takeover from the start?" Claire navigated through the crowd with practiced grace, but Ethan could see the strain around her eyes. "No comment," she repeated until she reached the building's entrance. Then she stopped. Turned. The reporters fell silent, sensing a moment. "My son," she said clearly, "is not a corporate strategy. He's a 3-year-old boy who loves dinosaurs and collecting rocks. Anyone who tries to use him as a pawn in their games should be ashamed of themselves." She swept inside, leaving the reporters buzzing. Ethan's phone buzzed again. Oliver's new preschool. "Mr. Lancaster, we've had some situation with photographers. We've moved the children to the secure playroom, but we think it would be best if Oliver was picked up early." Ethan was already grabbing his coat. "I'm on my way." "Sir," his assistant called after him, "the board is waiting in the conference room. Tell them to watch Claire's statement on Channel 4. It's the only comment they're getting today." The preschool was a fortress of child-sized furniture and primary colors. Oliver sat in the playroom, showing his favorite teacher his dinosaur book, seemingly oblivious to the chaos his existence had sparked. "Daddy!" He jumped up when he saw Ethan. "Did you come to read with me?" The simple trust in his voice made Ethan's throat tight. "Actually, buddy, I thought we might go on an adventure. Would you like that?" Oliver's eyes lit up. "Can we go to the museum again?" "I was thinking somewhere quieter." Ethan knelt down. "How would you like to see where I grew up?" The Lancaster family estate in Connecticut had been closed up for years, ever since his parents passed. But it had acres of private land, security gates, and most importantly, no reporters. He texted Claire, "Taking Oliver to Connecticut House, safe from press. Come when you can." Her reply was immediate. "On my way. Board can wait." The drive north was peaceful, Oliver chattering about his morning at school while Ethan's security team followed discreetly in another car. They'd lost the paparazzi at the city limits. "And then Madison brought her pet hamster for show and tell," Oliver continued. "But I told her that hamsters are actually distant relatives of something called Purgatorius, which was one of the first mammals after the dinosaurs went extinct." "Is that right?" Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror, seeing his son's animated face. "Uh-huh. It lived in trees and ate bugs and—" Oliver broke off as they turned into the estate's long driveway. "Whoa, is this a castle?" The old mansion did look rather castle-like, Ethan had to admit. He hadn't been here since before he'd met Claire, actually, back when he was still the person his parents had raised him to be, not the corporate warrior he'd become. "This is where I grew up," he said, pulling up to the front steps. "Want to explore?" Oliver was out of his car seat in record time. Are there dinosaur bones in the garden? Probably not, but there might be some interesting rocks. Ethan unlocked the front door. And I think I still have some of my old books in the library. You have a library? Oliver's eyes went wide. The house smelled musty, unused, but the cleaning service had kept it maintained. Ethan led Oliver to the library, where floor-to-ceiling bookshelves still held his childhood collection. Here, he pulled out a worn volume. This was my favorite when I was your age. Junior Encyclopedia of Natural Science, Oliver read carefully. Did it teach you about dinosaurs too? It taught me about everything. Stars, plants, animals. Ethan ran his hand over the familiar cover. I wanted to be a scientist back then. What happened? The innocent question struck deep. I forgot what was important. Like Victoria did? Ethan sat in his father's old leather chair, pulling Oliver onto his lap. Something like that. But you know what? You helped me remember. Really? How? By being exactly who you are. By loving what you love, whether it's dinosaurs or rocks or beetles at soccer practice. Oliver leaned back against him, opening the encyclopedia. Can we read it together? Of course, buddy. They were deep in a chapter about volcanoes when Claire arrived. She paused in the library doorway, taking in the scene. The press is going crazy, she said softly. Victoria's interview is everywhere. Let them talk. Ethan didn't look up from the book. We're learning about pyroclastic flows, right, Oliver? They're like super-fast avalanches of hot gas and rock, Oliver informed his mother. Like what? Happened at Pompeii. Claire sat in the chair opposite them, slipping off her heels. Sounds fascinating. Tell me more. As Oliver launched into an explanation that mixed scientific facts with creative interpretation, Ethan's phone buzzed. The board, again. He silenced it. Mr. Lancaster? Oliver asked suddenly. I mean, Daddy? Yes? Are you going to marry Victoria? The question hung in the air. Claire went very still. No, buddy, Ethan said firmly. I'm not. Good. Oliver turned back to his book. Because she doesn't like rocks or dinosaurs, and she made Mommy sad. Claire made a small sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. I made Mommy sad too once, Ethan said quietly. Oliver looked up at him solemnly. But you're trying to make it better. That's what Coach Christina says. It's okay to make mistakes if you try to fix them. Out the library windows, reporters' cars had begun gathering at the estate gates. Victoria's interview played on endless loop on every network. The business world was in chaos over the Lancaster Reynolds scandal. But in this room, with his son on his lap and Claire watching them with complex emotions in her eyes, Ethan finally understood what real power was. Not the ability to make stock prices rise or fall, but the chance to earn back trust. One dinosaur fact at a time. Hey, Oliver, Claire said. Why don't you go explore the garden? Look for those dinosaur bones? Stay where we can see you from, the window. Once Oliver was out of earshot, she turned to Ethan. The collaboration announcement. Can wait. No, it can't, not now. She leaned forward. Victoria's trying to paint this as a conspiracy between us. If we announce the merger now, it'll look like she's right. Ethan watched Oliver examining rocks in the garden. So, we wait. Let the truth come out on its own. The truth? That I was an idiot who chose power over love. That I didn't know about Oliver until a week ago. That he met her eyes. That everything good in my life came from you. And I was too blind to see it. Claire's breath caught. Ethan, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. Just the chance to be Oliver's father, to prove I can be worthy of that trust. Outside, Oliver had discovered something exciting in the garden and was waving, frantically for them to come see. One day at a time, Claire said softly, standing to join their son. That's how trust grows back. Ethan followed them into the garden, leaving his phone behind. Victoria's interview could wait. The board could wait. Right now, his son had found what he claimed might be a real fossil, and nothing in the corporate world could possibly be more important than that. The board meeting was set for noon, but Ethan stood in Oliver's new preschool at 11:30, watching his son's class prepare for their chicken hatching project. The corporate world could wait 15 more minutes. The eggs need perfect conditions, Oliver explained to his classmates, surprisingly confident in front of the group. Just like dinosaur eggs did millions of years ago. Ms. Rodriguez smiled encouragingly. That's right, Oliver. And what temperature do we need to maintain? 99.5 degrees. Oliver beamed at Ethan. Daddy, can you stay to see if they hatch? The word still made his heart skip. Not today, buddy, but I promise to come back tomorrow. Claire appeared in the classroom doorway, her expression tense. Ethan, it's time. He knelt to hug Oliver goodbye, breathing in the familiar scent of children's shampoo and graham crackers. Be good, okay? Learn lots about those eggs. Wait! Oliver ran to his cubby and returned with a small rock. For luck, it's a special one. Ethan pocketed the stone, throat tight. Thank you, buddy. Outside, Claire's driver waited alongside. The media circus around Victoria's interview had exploded over the past week, with new allegations emerging daily. The latest claimed Claire had orchestrated the entire situation, using Oliver to orchestrate a hostile takeover of both companies. You don't have to do this, Claire said quietly. Yes, I do. Ethan straightened his tie. For Oliver. They rode separately to their respective offices, maintaining the appearance of distance that their PR teams had insisted upon. But as Ethan entered the Lancaster Group's boardroom, he felt the weight of Oliver's lucky rock in his pocket and stood a little straighter. The board members sat like a jury, their faces grave. Victoria's father, Ronald Reynolds, occupied a chair near the head of the table, his expression thunderous. Before we begin, Ethan said clearly, I have a statement to make. Save it, Ronald snapped. We've all seen the evidence. You and Claire Miller conspired. The only conspiracy, Ethan interrupted, was the one I perpetrated against myself 3 years ago, when I convinced myself that power was more important than love, when I left a woman who challenged me to be better for one who simply reinforced my worst instincts. He placed a folder on the table. Here are dated medical records, birth certificates, and correspondence proving I had no knowledge of Oliver until 2 weeks ago. Here also is evidence that Victoria was aware of Phoenix Innovations' technological breakthroughs months ago and pushed for our merger specifically to block their patents. The board members began flipping through the documents. Ronald's face grew red. This is nonsense. Victoria would never— Check your phone, Ron. Ethan's voice was quiet but carried authority he'd never quite managed before. Channel 7 is about to run an interesting story. On cue, phones around the table lit up with breaking news alerts. Victoria appeared on their screens, but not in her carefully staged interview setting. This was security footage from 6 months ago, showing her meeting with corporate spies, explicitly discussing Claire's company's trade secrets. How did you get this? Ronald demanded. I didn't. Claire did. She's been 3 steps ahead of all of us from the beginning. Ethan allowed himself a small smile. She built $1 billion company while raising our son alone. Did you really think she wouldn't have contingency plans? The boardroom erupted in chaos. As accusations and arguments flew, Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Oliver's class had their first egg hatch. He's asking for both of us. This meeting is over, Ethan announced, standing. The merger with Reynolds is officially terminated. My official statement about Oliver and his mother will be released this afternoon. Any questions can be directed to our legal team. You can't just walk out, Ronald began. Actually, I can, because I finally understand something. Ethan reached into his pocket, gripping Oliver's rock. Real power isn't about controlling others, it's about being true to yourself and protecting what matters. He left them sitting there, their protests fading behind him. In the elevator, he texted Claire. On my way. Save me a spot by the incubator? Her reply came quickly. Hurry, He wants to name the chick after a dinosaur. Across town, Claire sat in her own boardroom, facing her own critics. But her presentation was different. Phoenix Innovations' clean energy patents combined with Lancaster Group's distribution network could revolutionize the industry, she explained, clicking through projection charts. Not through a hostile takeover, but through genuine collaboration. And we're supposed to believe this isn't connected to your personal situation? A board member challenged. Claire's smile was serene. Check the date stamps on the proposal. I've been developing this strategy since before Oliver was born. The fact that his father finally sees its value? That's just evolution. Her phone lit up with another text. A photo from Ms. Rodriguez showing Oliver peering into the incubator, his face alight with wonder. Now, Claire continued, we can either waste time discussing tabloid rumors or we can talk about how we're going to change the future of energy distribution. Your choice. The board chose wisely. By the time Ethan arrived at the preschool, 2 more eggs had hatched. Oliver bounced between his parents, barely containing his excitement. Look, this one's Archaeopteryx because it's like the missing link between dinosaurs and birds. He pointed to a tiny, damp chick. And that one's Gallimimus because it runs funny like in the documentaries. They're beautiful, Ethan said, meaning it. He reached for Claire's hand without thinking, then caught himself. But she didn't pull away. They stood there watching their son name prehistoric creatures after their modern descendants, while their phones buzzed with news of corporate warfare and media speculation. None of it seemed to matter. The Reynolds Group stock is in free fall, Claire murmured. Victoria's been suspended pending investigation, Ethan replied softly. Good. Claire squeezed his hand once, then let go. Oliver, sweetheart, should we show Daddy the chart you made about egg development? The way she said Daddy, not Mr. Lancaster or your father, made something shift in Ethan's chest. Oliver proudly displayed his somewhat creative interpretation of chicken embryo development, complete with detailed notes about possible dinosaur connections. His parents praised his work, asked questions, and exchanged glances over his head that held fragments of their old connection. Outside the classroom windows, autumn was painting Central Park in brilliant colors. Change was in the air, in the newly hatched chicks, in the corporate landscape, in the careful way Claire smiled at Ethan when Oliver said something particularly endearing. One more egg to go, Oliver announced. Want to stay and watch? Ethan looked at Claire, questioning. She nodded slightly. We'll both stay, she said. Some things are worth waiting for. The double meaning wasn't lost on either of them. As Oliver settled between them to watch the miracle of new life emerging, Ethan realized that sometimes the biggest victories had nothing to do with stock prices or corporate takeovers. Sometimes they were as simple as a family watching eggs hatch on a Tuesday afternoon, while the outside world storms raged unnoticed and unloved. 3 months after the chicken hatching, snow dusted Central Park like powdered sugar. Oliver pressed his face against the windows of the Natural History Museum's new planetarium exhibit, watching a presentation about the asteroid that changed Earth forever. And that's how the age of dinosaurs ended, the narrator explained, making way for new life to evolve and thrive. Just like your companies, Oliver announced, loud enough for nearby visitors to hear. Claire stifled a laugh while Ethan knelt beside their son. How do you mean, buddy? Well, the old way had to go extinct so the new way could happen. Like how you and Mommy made your companies work together instead of fighting, and now you're helping save the planet with clean energy. Just like how mammals helped make new ecosystems after the dinosaurs were gone. Out of the mouths of babes, Claire and Ethan exchanged glances over their son's head. The past 3 months had transformed more than just their corporate landscape. Phoenix Innovations and the Lancaster Group's collaboration had revolutionized energy distribution across 3 continents. Victoria and her father had retreated to Europe after the corporate espionage scandal, their influence in New York's business world extinct as the dinosaurs Oliver loved so much. But the real evolution had happened in quieter moments. Soccer, practices, bedtime stories, family dinners that stretched later and later into the evening. moments when the lines between co-parents and former spouses blurred like snow in winter light. "Ready for the big presentation tomorrow?" Claire asked as they left the museum, Oliver running ahead to examine an interesting icicle. "As ready as I'll ever be," Ethan replied, though I'm not sure the board is prepared for Oliver's contribution. Their son had insisted on adding a section about environmental conservation to their clean energy presentation, complete with his own drawings of happy polar bears benefiting from reduced carbon emissions. Neither parent had the heart to edit it out. "He'll steal the show," Claire smiled. "He always does." They walked through the park toward Claire's brownstone, their breath frosting in the winter air. Oliver collected rocks even through his mittens, determined to find fossils in the most unlikely places. "Do you ever think about that night?" Ethan asked suddenly. "The gala where everything changed?" "Sometimes." Claire watched Oliver examining his latest geological treasure. "Do you regret it, coming back into our lives? Only that I wasn't there sooner." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Claire, Mommy, Daddy, look what I found." Oliver held up what appeared to be an ordinary piece of concrete, his face glowing with discovery. Both parents dutifully examined it, praising its unique characteristics. "Can we have hot chocolate?" Oliver asked, "to celebrate my fossil?" "It's not actually a fossil, sweetheart," Claire began, but Ethan caught her eye. "I think this discovery definitely calls for hot chocolate," he said. "Maybe at that little cafe near your house, the one with the dinosaur cookies?" Oliver cheered, running ahead toward their favorite spot. They'd been there countless times over the past months, building new traditions one cup of cocoa at a time. The cafe was warm and welcoming, strings of winter lights twinkling in the early darkness. Oliver arranged his fossils on the table while they waited for their drinks. "And this one might be from the Cretaceous period," he explained seriously to their regular waitress, who listened with admirable patience. "Speaking of history," Ethan said quietly to Claire, "I've been thinking about the future." "Oh?" He pulled out a familiar object, the worn Junior Encyclopedia of Natural Science from his childhood home. "I found something pressed between the pages." From the book fell a photograph Claire hadn't seen in years. The two of them in college, young and in love, her head thrown back in laughter while he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. "I'd forgotten how to look at people that way," he said softly, "until Oliver taught me how to see what really matters." "Ethan, I'm not asking for anything," he hurried to add. "Just acknowledging how far we've come. How far I've come. Thanks to both of you." Oliver interrupted with his own discovery. The dinosaur cookie he'd been saving had a pattern that looked exactly like Archaeopteryx footprints. As they examined the cookie's prehistoric credentials, Claire slipped the photograph back into the encyclopedia, but she kept her hand on the book, her fingers brushing Ethan's. "Time is a funny thing," she said finally. "Sometimes you have to go through an extinction event to realize what's worth saving." Outside, snow began falling again, transforming Manhattan's hard edges into something softer, more magical. Oliver pressed his face to the cafe window, counting snowflakes and speculating about whether dinosaurs had ever seen snow. "They found preserved snowfall patterns in some fossils," Ethan told him, drawing on newly acquired knowledge. "From the late Cretaceous period." "Really?" Oliver's eyes widened. "Can we go see them?" "They're in a museum in Canada," Claire said. "But maybe we could plan a trip sometime?" The word "we" hung in the air between them, full of possibility. "As a family?" Oliver asked hopefully. Claire met Ethan's eyes over their son's head. The man she saw there wasn't the power-hungry tycoon who'd broken her heart, or even the repentant father seeking redemption. He was something new, evolved, like the creatures who survived the great extinction to become something better. "Yes," she said softly. "As a family." Ethan's hand found hers under the table, and this time neither pulled away. Oliver continued his paleontological analysis of his cookie, unaware that his parents were having their own moment of discovery. Later, watching Oliver finally drift off to sleep surrounded by his rock collection and cherished dinosaur books. Claire and Ethan stood in the doorway of his room like they had so many nights over the past months. "Stay," she said quietly. "Not for dinner, not for story time, but for something more. Are you sure?" She turned to him in the soft light of Oliver's dinosaur nightlight. "Some things go extinct for a reason, Ethan, but some things are meant to evolve." He pulled her close, and as they kissed, Oliver stirred slightly in his sleep, clutching his beloved Rex the Parasaurolophus, the first gift from a father who had learned that true power lay not in corporate takeovers, but in the gentle act of learning to love again. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the city in possibilities as infinite as the stars that had witnessed the Earth's greatest transformations. In a boy's bedroom in Manhattan, surrounded by rocks and fossils and the love of two people who had found their way back to each other, a new kind of future was taking shape, one that proved that sometimes the end of one world was just the beginning of a better one. If you had to choose between power and love like Ethan, what would your decision be, knowing that this choice could alter not only your destiny, but also that of innocent people? Is there really a balance between professional ambition and family connections? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below, letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.